Hey everybody, coming to you from the great outdoors. This is Jackie, aka Hoodwinkler, manifestation coach and expert. Today we're going to be talking about how to slow down time, or changing your perception of time in general. So you have the ability to slow down time, you just don't know it. That feeling, awful feeling, that you constantly have, that you are running out of time, that time is passing and there's nothing you can do about it, you are constantly rushing, that feeling like you're always 10 steps behind the clock, you're always falling short, that there's something else other than what you're doing in this present moment that you should be doing, and basically just feeling like no matter what you're doing with your life, you're always dissatisfied. That can be changed and slowed down. And in this episode, I'm going to teach you how I am learning in my life to do that. Yes, it sounds woo-woo and alchemical. How does one slow down time? I promise it's possible. I'm going to share it with you. Before we dive into time and how to slow it down, I want to talk about the theory of time. This might help you understand that it's not real. So let's start with Einstein. I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about science. I asked ChatGPT to explain this to me like I'm 5, and this is what it came up with. So Einstein, I want to say he's German, might be wrong, came up with a theory, you guys, called the theory of relativity. And in this theory, he theorized that time is not the same everywhere. It can change depending on speed and gravity. So to give you an example, this is like if you had a twin and your twin decided to be an astronaut, and you decided not to be an astronaut, so you stayed on Earth, and your twin went in a spaceship that like traveled the speed of light or like close to it. When your twin comes back to Earth, your twin's going to be younger than you, because time moved slower for them than it did for you. So if time was real and absolute, that wouldn't be a thing, right? That wouldn't happen. So time disproven, number one. Then there's also the psychological perspective of time, which is that our perception of time is just a perception, right? Like it's a way for our minds and our brains to organize our life and our experiences. Without our mind, there's no past or future. We just use those terms and those things to organize our life. There's only the present moment. And you can think about this in terms of when you are doing a task that you lose track of time in. It's like you're in the zone. You're in kind of that like creative space void where your surroundings seem to disappear and things just hours fly by. That's one example of your psychological... Sorry, I just saw a snake earlier. I'm a little on edge. So that's one example of our psychological perception of time altering how we experience time, right? And then there's also when time drags. Like this is when you are waiting for class to be over or something. And this is what they talk about a lot when it comes to really ancient spirituality. It's that the future and the past don't actually exist. Like all that we can count on and all that is real is here in this present moment. So what we call or refer to as time is just our way of measuring how we experience the present moment. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of conceptual. I just thought it was important for you to basically know that time isn't real. So this is how I change my perception of this concept that isn't real to help me enjoy my life so that I don't always feel rushed. I'm pretty sure my mic wasn't working, so now we have a mic. But this feeling like you're always falling behind the clock is a product of two things in your life that you're doing, both of which you can change. So the first thing is your attention, what you're paying attention to, what you're not paying attention to. The second thing is you're having an imbalance of input and output. Basically, what I mean by an input-output imbalance is you are doing too much the wrong way and you're not enjoying life enough. So in life, we have input. This is things that we experience, things that we take in. This can be knowledge that we're gleaning. Things that we're like taking into ourselves. And then we also have output, and these are the things that we do and what we create. And you can either have fruitful or fruitless input and output, and I'll give you an example of each one of them. Okay, you guys, before we go on any further, I just wanted to introduce myself. I might have done this at the beginning, but I'm Jackie. I'm a manifestation coach and expert. I have a free quiz that teaches you exactly where you are getting tripped up in your manifestation practice and the one thing that you need to focus on in order to manifest better. It's totally free. It takes 1.5 minutes, and I'm going to post it in the description. On to the content. So examples of fruitless output. This is stuff that you are doing or creating that's not giving you anything in life and is furthering the snake and is furthering this feeling that you are constantly behind the clock. So examples of fruitless output are doing draining shit that you hate, basically, or rigidly adhering to structure. These things are always going to make you feel like you are running out of time and you're behind the clock. They're going to further a feeling of rushiness. Now, an example of fruitful output, these are things that you can still create and do, but they allow you to settle into a perception of time that feels good for you, is like inspired or aligned action. Doing things or working towards a goal in a way that feels good and not completely draining and rushed. Okay, an example of fruitless input. This is stuff that you're experiencing and you're taking in to your mind and your life. That would be something like scrolling forever on your phone through a shit ton of content that you don't care about at all. You are literally inputting and taking in so much stuff into your mind that you could not care less about. It's like unconscious input, that is going to make you feel like you are losing time. Now, when we talk about fruitful input, this could be like doing something that you have always wanted to do and you've never done before, like going on an artist date. They talk about this in The Artist's Way. Reading a book that you really, really enjoy. Not to finish the book. I heard this on a YouTube video yesterday. Not to finish the book, not to like do the thing in a fruitless way, but to experience and enjoy what you're reading. So where did this like imbalance in input and output come from? My theory, and you can read about this online, is largely that it came from or started in the Industrial Revolution in the US, where we decided that we had to be really industrious, doing a bunch of shit for money, basically. And this is, I've noticed after traveling a lot of places in the world, this is largely a USA problem, or it like is based in the US. I think a lot of Americans experience this more than other people in the world. But other people in the world totally experience it too. And you can even see this in our culture, like so many countries have 2 to 3 hour lunch breaks, and most Americans, they eat their lunch as fast as they can in 10 minutes, like hunched over a trash can. And it's literally like ingrained in our culture to rush and feel like we're running out of time. It's this fear that if we're not constantly putting out something and taking in something at the same time that's like fruitless on both ends, that we're not going to gain something good. Usually this is money or some form of security. So going forward, it's going to be really helpful for you to try to stop perceiving time as a limited resource. And just like open yourself up to the possibility that time is like an illusion. And the biggest gift that you're going to get from this is you're going to start being a lot more in touch with your intuition. So, intuition is the thing that makes life feel magical. It's the thing in manifestation that makes manifestations feel incredible. Because your intuition and like noticing, and this is where the attention part comes in, paying attention to the synchronicities that the universe is providing you with, is what makes life feel like a dream, like a crazy, trippy, cool little dream. And your intuition thrives when you are not feeling rushed. Your intuition thrives in open, empty space, which is when you are not taking in anything or putting out anything in general. Again, your intuition thrives when you are paying close attention to life. And it also thrives when you allow yourself to get and gain a new perspective. And I'll talk about like how you do all of these things in a second. But you like cannot be in touch with your intuition and synchronicities, or it's much harder to pay attention and gain these new perspectives when you are constantly rushing and feeling like there's something else you should be doing with your life and your time and this present moment. Because that is a fallacy. That's not true. Like, says who? And because attention and input-output stuff is the thing that makes life feel magical, it taps you in with God. It taps you in with synchronicity and intuition. It helps generate the feeling of fulfillment in your life. Because those are the things that make all of that good stuff happen. That's the reason why constant access to knowledge and social media and being on your phone and being on media and having a podcast playing in the background and having all of this information stimulation is extremely damaging for our society and our mental health. And you can see this in like every study ever, basically, if you want to look into how social media affects our mental health. And my main theory is that they got it wrong, where they were like, oh, it makes you compare your body to other people. No, it makes you feel constantly overstimulated, and life moves at a pace that you cannot keep up with. When you are constantly scrolling on your phone and intaking information and reading every ad and subconsciously looking at a screen, there is no space for your intuition or your attention, and your input and output is completely imbalanced, right? And I'll go on like a little conspiracy theory tangent right now, so skip this if you hate that shit. But to me, it's like, okay, how do you make a society miserable, controllable, and looped into dysfunctional systems that they cannot see a way out of? Well, you steal their attention. You like steal their autonomy, right? The easiest way to make people feel limited and confused is you teach them that time is limited, and there's a heron flying in the sky. Cool. So the easiest way to make a society feel confused and stressed out and like their life isn't there is teach them that time is limited, which therefore limits them, and make them feel rushed, and you steal their life force away, right? Also, if there is no stillness, like if you don't allow yourself to experience stillness, there's no commitment, there's no satisfaction, and there's no opportunity to build anything, because you're always rushing to get on to the next thing. You don't want to build what you have right now because you're always rushing for the bigger, better thing. And you can see this in like how like families aren't really a thing anymore because of divorce rates and scrolling on Tinder, and you're always like looking for the next best thing, the next best guy, the next best date. No one's ever really ever good enough because the grass is always greener on the other side, right? And I think as a society, like, we really miss building. We miss building long-term communities. We miss building families. We miss building careers that last generations and generations. I think that's something that we lost, and like we needed an opportunity to be able to break away from structures that didn't serve everybody, right? Like building a nuclear family doesn't serve everybody. Building a generational career, or like a career even in your life, no, that doesn't serve everybody, but it definitely serves a lot of people. And I think that we threw out the baby with the bathwater there, and now there's just like lots of people who are floundering around kind of like, what do I do with my life? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because we're always looking for like the dream thing, the next best thing, and we're not just like picking things and sticking with them, because that requires stillness that we don't know how to do, because we're constantly on the fucking move. We're constantly rushing. We're constantly scrolling. There's this like urgency that we have created, and it doesn't exist. And to even like deeper go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, I guess, to me, I'm not like, yay, AI, like I'm not from San Francisco, you know what I mean? But this is the main upside of AI. I think a lot of people get worried that AI is going to like replace art careers and make music, and it's going to take over the world, and it's going to take over jobs. I think it definitely will take over jobs, but I don't think it could ever take over like art. And I think the main upside of AI is that it will provide people with a lot more stillness, because they're going to have to do less of stuff that they don't want to do, that's like menial, tedious tasks. So I think that AI is going to open up a lot more opportunity for humans to have like invest in more creative, personalized, long-term careers that actually feel good to them, because there's not going to be a need for so much busy work, which we'll talk about in how to actually slow down time in a second. Anyways, I digress. That was such a rant. All of this is to say that if your energy creates your reality, which it does, and this is what we talk about in manifestation and the law of attraction and everything else that I teach, if your energy creates your reality, then always rushing creates what? A rushed reality. And slowing down creates what? A slowed down reality, because just like everything else, time is a perception. It's literally a belief that we hold. So if we're able to slow down the way that we interact with that belief, we can literally slow down time. So here's how I slow down time to make my life more enjoyable, because I don't feel like my life is enjoyable when I'm rushing like that. Oh, actually, before I continue, I'll even further illustrate the like your energy creates your reality, and if you're rushed, you're creating a rushed reality point. Because you can think about this in terms of like when you are rushing, again, you're always feeling like you're behind the clock. These weeks and months and years are like rushing past you. I'm sure you listening can think back, and you probably feel like 2020 was like 6 months ago, and it was 4 years ago. So that's what that rushing creates the sensation of. It's like time is rushing past you. And you're not getting anything done. As opposed to, I want you to think about the last time that you meditated. Maybe you're not an experienced meditator, and you set the timer for 10 minutes. I bet your ass you checked the clock a couple times to see when that very long 10 minutes would be over, you know? Because when we slow down and when we pay attention to what's actually going on, time slows down. Our perception of time changes, right? I think about this in kids too. Like, kids are masters of mindfulness and presence, like children. And when you tell a kid, I used to be a nanny, and when you tell a kid like, oh yeah, you're gonna sit in timeout for 10 minutes, not that I do timeout anymore, but whatever, that's a different story. When you tell a kid like, go sit over there for 10 minutes, they stomp their feet and they're like, 10 minutes? That's like forever. And when you tell them, you know, we're going to go to the park in an hour is like 6 years to them. You can even hear this in children, how they describe their, they'll give away their slower perception of time and how they describe age. For us, we're like, yeah, I'm 27, you know, and for a kid, they're like, I'm 3 1/4. I'm 3 1/2. I'm 3 3/4, because their perception of time is so much slower than an adult's, right? Okay, so I digress. Here is how to actually slow down time so you can make your life more enjoyable. Here's how I do it. So the biggest way that I have been practicing slowing down time is by fine-tuning my attention. And this is definitely cutting out things that fragment my attention, like listening to stuff in the background when I'm doing dishes, or scrolling while I'm doing my makeup, or just anything like that where your attention is fragmented. I try to cut stuff out so that I'm only paying attention to one thing at a time. But I also pay attention practice paying attention by getting embodied. And this is the process for me of prioritizing experiencing over doing. This is what I was talking about, and what that YouTuber, I'll link her in the description, what that YouTuber that I watched yesterday was talking about when she said, when you're reading a book, are you reading it to finish the book, or are you reading the book to read it and enjoy the actual process of reading the book, right? So I prioritize with my attention experiencing what I'm doing versus doing what I'm doing to get it done. And a lot of this takes, for me, embodiment. So that's like getting into my body when I'm doing a task. When I'm sitting here, I feel my voice coming out of my throat. I feel the wind on my skin. I hear the little birdie that just flicked past us up there. I feel the temperature of the hot air on my body. I hear the pond and the little fountain over there. I'm paying attention through my senses. I also have a theory about memory and attention, which I'll just trail off into right now for a second. But my theory is that core memories, those like memories that you remember for the rest of your life, even if they're not that important, like we have core memories from childhood. You might have core memories like with your ex or something. You might have core memories, I don't know, of like a summer night or whatever. I have a theory that core memories are formed. Like the stronger you want a memory to be formed, the more senses you need to use, or the more sensory experience you need to be having in order for that memory to be instilled in you. And I think that this is why traumatic memories are so interesting, and they are oftentimes remembered as fragmented sensory experiences. So when you hear someone describe a traumatic event, they're oftentimes not saying things like, oh yeah, first this happened, then this happened. They're like, no, I remember the like buzzing sound. I remember the smell of this. I remember the way that the like, I don't know, door handle felt on my hands. Like, those are all sensory experiences. So my theory is if you want to make more positive core memories in your life, it will happen through having more than like 2 senses involved, preferably like all 5, getting really in touch with all of your senses when you're in the present moment. That's what makes like core memories. So if you really want to remember something, check in with your senses. And the more that I started practicing embodiment, the more that I would notice, like, I have core memories of like taking a shower because all of my senses were involved. That's something that I don't even need to have a core memory about, but it felt so present and embodied that I'll never forget that shower. So I hope that makes sense. So that's the first point of how I've been learning to like slow down time and slow down my perception of time, is through paying attention. The other thing that I've been doing that's very helpful, so this is step 2, is learning from nature. So getting outside more and asking myself whenever I'm in a natural setting, what can this tree teach me today? Like, what can the heron teach me today? What can the frog teach me today? What can the wind teach me today? What can the river teach me today? And almost every time they teach me something about impermanence and something about stillness and attention. We forget that we are animals all the time. And when you observe animals in the natural world, they are not rushing to get on to the next thing. They are not checking shit off of their to-do list. They are doing what they, first of all, feel called with inspired, aligned action to do, or instinctually. Or a lot of the times they're doing what, to the modern human eye, looks like nothing. They're doing nothing. They're sitting there. The lizard is fucking bumbling around, walking around on the rock doing nothing. The heron is taking 1 step every 10 minutes, just looking at the pond. He's doing nothing. Your cat is curled up on your bed. What are they doing? Fucking nothing, bro. So it's been really helpful for me to learn how to slow down time by watching nature and animals teach me that by paying attention and by slowing down, nothing is lost, and maybe that's just a natural state of what it is to be alive. Another thing that I've been doing to change my perception of time, I don't usually use affirmations. I actually kind of dunk on them all the time. Like, I'm not an affirmation girl, but when I start feeling that rush feeling, I will repeat this one affirmation to myself, which is, there is nothing else I should be doing in this moment other than what I'm doing right now. There's nothing else I should be doing with my life. There's nothing I should be doing with my time. There's nothing anybody should be doing. I should be doing what I'm doing right now, and that's it. So that's an affirmation that's been really helpful for me recently. Another thing that's really important, because while it's all well and good to be like, time doesn't exist, just pay attention, just enjoy your life, just create the space for your intuition, like, we got shit to do, right? Like, I run a business. Like, you might have kids if you're watching this. So what is helpful for me is creating systems that actually work for me and work in favor of a perception of time that I would want to have. So creating structure that helps. One of my business mentors says all the time, the more structure you have in your business, the more freedom you have. But it's really true in life. Like, the more structure you have, the more freedom you have. So that's been a really crucial component of slowing down time for me, is creating systems that work for me. And the first place where I started in doing that was asking myself, and you can ask yourself, where are you wasting your time? And I do not mean at all, how are you not being productive? I mean, where are you allowing time to limit your beingness? So you can ask yourself this: where are you not paying attention? Are you not paying attention when you're scrolling through social media forever? Are you not paying attention to the quality of your relationships? Are you not paying attention to your emotions? And what are you paying too much attention to? Are you paying too much attention to meaningless little tasks because you don't want to hand them off to someone else because you feel that sense of control, like you need to do everything yourself? Are you paying too much attention to every little slip up that your partner makes, even though they're like loving and you guys are in a healthy relationship? Where are you expending energy that is literally wasting your perception of time? So for me, what this looked like was realizing that a lot of what I was paying too much attention to were like meaningless little tasks in my business that weren't fulfilling at all. So that was like automating MailChimp. Like, I do not give a fuck about automating MailChimp, and I don't want to know anything about automating MailChimp. But because I didn't want to like give up a sense of control to hiring someone else or like delegating that task, I was basically like, let me waste all my time doing this meaningless shit. So the more structure you have, the more freedom you have. And the way that I implemented something else was like taking my hands off the wheel, delegating to somebody else, and then also creating a structure that made me feel more fulfilled. So I used to just answer emails like at any time during the day, and whenever something came up, I would deal with it right away, and it created this really urgent, rushing feeling. And now I have really clear boundaries on when I do certain things. So I have mornings from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. That is when I focus on creation. This is my fruitful output. And then from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., this is when I focus on either emptiness or stagnancy. This is when I do like business shit, paperwork, or I just go on a walk. I meditate. I do shit that like I'm not doing anything. This is when I allow the stillness and the stagnancy to come in. And then from 5 to 9 p.m., this is when I take in stuff. This is my input. This is when I am reading books, I'm doing courses, I'm taking in knowledge. And I learned this from a creator on Instagram who I'll link in the description below. But so 6 to 12 p.m. is creation, output. 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. is stagnancy, stillness, paperwork, busy work. 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. is knowledge, input. So that's a structure that really works well. The heron scared me. That's a structure that really works well for me when it comes to slowing down time. Also, just reminding myself constantly, and remind yourself constantly, that you do not always have to be creating something or doing something. That is that imbalanced input and output. You are allowed to rest and do nothing. You are allowed to watch a movie and not doing something productive during it. You are allowed to take action that inspires you and lights you up instead of doing a bunch of shit that's draining. You're allowed to let things be easy. Okay, and then lastly, the thing that I've been doing is, as I slow down time, I let myself have new experiences. So I let myself take a class, go on a walk, sit in a new place in my yard. I do something different. This is where the magic of life creeps in. Allow yourself to do something different and shake up your perspective. As you're slowing down time, allow yourself to enjoy life in a new way that you haven't done before. Long story short, you guys, if time is a perception, let time heal you instead of work against you. Okay, thank you for joining me. If you loved everything you heard and you're jazzed about it, you can go to my website and sign up for a free manifestation webinar. Just click on free webinars. I have them when I have them. It'll tell you on the website. And I teach you how I learned to manifest a really incredible life for myself and how I teach people all over the world to do that too. So, yeah.